My quilt's getting done. I've got 3 of the sections almost finished, and I need to start working on the border. As I showed you in one of the previous ones, the quilt is going to be made up of 4 sections, and I'm going to put a border around the sections like this. Because this is one of the corner sections, I only need the border on the 2 sides, and that will be the same for all of them. But I want to make this border. Because this is a scrap quilt, I wanted the whole thing to be scraps. So we're going to use our same pattern piece, but we're going to cut it a little bit differently this time. As you can see, no, I don't want that TV. I don't watch enough TV to even make it worthwhile to have a subscription to it. Definitely not pay for it. So I'm going to fold my sheet of paper in half. Now, I could cut this, but I have this nice little knife that will slit it very nicely. I'm just going to slit it in half. That gives me 2 pattern pieces. I'll scrappy quilt these, and then I will sew them together in a strip. I need at least 5 and a little more. So I'll show you how we do these. I'm going to, just like before, we pick up something out of our scraps and we lay it on our piece here, like thus. And I like to start in the middle, and I'm going to pin it because it's kind of wrinkled. Okay, now I have just this much left of this little piece here. I'm going to straighten the line here, so I'll get it nice and straight when I sew it. Lay it down. I want it to go this way to kind of even that up. Gonna lay it here. Make sure it's gonna cover when I finish, and sew it. Open that up. That's kind of interesting. I love the green and that purple burgundy kind of fabric beside it. Okay, let's see what we have here. I have a little strip here, and I don't know if that's going to completely cover it or not. I think it will. If it covers it up here with a little bit of a seam, I think it'll be fine. But I have some other choices. I have this one here that I like. We're getting down to the last bit of it, it looks like. I think we'll use this one instead, just because I know it'll cover. Open it, and it did. While we're doing this, we need to make sure we keep our scraps neat. It'll save us time in the long run. Back around to the other way. Now we might use this one. Set it in an angle. Make sure that when we open it up, it's going to cover all the way. Not quite. Try it again. There's what we wanted. Open it up. Looking good. We need one more little piece here, and I have a couple of options. I've got a dark one and I've got this bright one here, but I only need a little bit of it. About that much. I think I'll use this one. Lay it down. There we go. We're going to trim that off because we didn't use a lot of that piece. Now, because this is a string, it has a tendency to stretch in this direction. We don't want it to do that. So I'm going to set the length of it, I guess is what you would say. To keep it from stretching, I'm going to run a border around it. Well, a border. I'm going to stitch around it with the paper on. Now, because that border makes it easy, I'm not going to bother getting out my rotary cutter. I'm just going to trim it. This is all scrap except maybe that piece. And like before, just simply pull the paper off. I'm not going to bother ironing this because of that stay stitching around the outside. It will be fine. I will iron all of my quilt pieces before I quilt them though. And there we go. We need to make a couple more of these. I'll get those later. We need to make a couple more of these and sew them all together. I will do that and be back. Well, I'm almost finished with my quilt top. I have pieced and put together all of the sections. I have finished putting the border around all of the sections except this one. This is the border for the one section, the last section. And if you notice, I have put a marker here on each of my sections. This one says lower right. That way I know where my corners are, so I know where to put my borders. The last section, I have the pieces put together here. I haven't sewn them into a strip yet, but if I were to sew them like this, they would look okay. But I decided that I wanted a special corner block here. I wanted it to go diagonal this way. And I'm going to show you how I make those. We have our same piece of paper that we started with. We have this one cut in half, like we had for the rest of the borders, because this has to match our border. So we're going to do what we did before. We're going to make a square. We're going to simply fold it across the point, crease it, and cut the excess off. We're going to fold that like this. And now we have our piece to make our corner for our border. Now, what I have been doing before is kind of stripping it across like this, lay a piece across, find a piece that goes with it, like this. This one won't take any length of time to piece. We want that to go like that. You can play with these however you have to. Okay, we'll call that one done. And I have a little piece here. I think I'll use a light color here. We only need a little tiny piece here to finish that off. No, we'll use this one. A little tiny bit of red. Make sure that's going to cover all the way to our tip. I don't think it is. Let's find something else. Here, how about our flag? I like that flag. Let's just use a little tiny section here of our flag pattern. And there we go. Pin that one back, because we're going to have to sew around this one like we did the other border pieces to size them a little bit. There we go. Now, I have a couple of pieces here. I think I like my pink. We'll put our pink on here, run it across. Pin it. And I really like this piece, but I don't think I'm going to be able to use it by itself, so I might have to put a little strip with it. There we go. Let's try this one. You know, when I finish this, I've got a whole bunch of scraps to clean up and decide whether I'm going to keep them or pitch them. Some of them I will pitch, some of them I will keep, because I have other projects that I use these scraps on, and I'll try to do a video on that at a later date. Okay, there we go. Now, we're going to flip this one just like we did the longer pieces, and we're going to sew around it. Okay, let me remove my pins so I don't catch them with my scissors. And we're going to trim this one by hand. And pull it. Now, because this runs on the diagonal, we're going to have to carefully orient it so that all of our corners will look alike. Which is why I'm making it separate. Okay, we have our piece here. Now, we need to lay our quilt pattern back up here, our quilt section back up here. What I did with the other pieces is I oriented them this way, and using my pieces that I've already done, I need to decide which one looks best here. I kind of like that. So, I'm going to sew that here, like this. And then I'm going to sew my other sections to it, deciding how I want them oriented. We'll do that. I probably need to make a little bit more of this because I don't think it'll run all the way down. I haven't really measured these. If I make them too long, I can cut them off and use them on the next section. And we got one more here. Which way do we want it? We want it that way because I don't want those two pieces together. And now, okay, so what we're going to do is it's going to go right here like this. We're going to put it over like that. We're going to flip it, and we're going to start sewing. The only place I need to really watch is right here at this seam. I want to make that seam just like that, and I'm going to pin it. Because I stay stitched these, they should lay fairly flat. And this is the outside of my quilt. It's not going to grow with this last little bit. And I just carefully line this up, not stretching, just making them lay neatly. The funny thing happened on this section when I was putting the outside sashing on this, I ran out of fabric. I should have bought another 1/4 yard, I guess. I was only short by about a foot, and this is the piece that I put in. I found something that was similar, as close as I could find in a scrap box, and just simply cut it. Now, I know it's there, but I think probably this quilt is going to be busy enough that nobody else will ever find it. So, I need to clean my sewing room up, sort my scraps, and finish this. I will be back next. The next part is the quilting. We need to cut our batting into 4 sections, making sure each one fits. And then we need to decide what we're going to use for the backing. I've decided that I have a lot of leftover muslin that I have used for quilt backing in the past, and I might have enough to back this whole quilt. Now, the muslin pieces won't exactly match, but nothing else on this quilt matches anyway. So, I want the light color fabric to show my quilting on the back side. I like to do some rather intricate quilting, and I'll show you how I do that. Keep watching, like and subscribe, and I'll be back.